Okay, we are live. I'll just check in on my own live streams I have with Viva. Everything's fine. No one's watching yet, but we'll see where it goes from here. I'm sure I'll have plenty.
Right. Well, and you're going to put this up later. After it renders it. Do you put them up usually?
Well, it's my first time doing this live, but
okay.
Everything we say from now on will just instantly be recorded and put straight onto YouTube at the end of the conversation.
Okay, great. And I'll give a link to that on my own channel. So
that's right. And we have self-contented here with us saying live, so we have confirmation. Excellent. Yeah. So I'll do a quick introduction here then. Like I said, this is the first live show for Understanding Conspiracy, but this certainly isn't the first theorist to theorist I've done for my playlist on my channel. What I like to do in this section, for those who don't know, is I want to try and bring as many channel makers together and video creators in the world of conspiracy. And the aim is just to have a conversation, get to know each other, show the rest of the theorists out there that we just want to talk ideas and get them out there. So I brought on today another channel I found, very new. She's only been around for a few months talking about conspiracy. And she's already growing quite quickly. She's got about 800 subscribers, and it's Jynx Cat. So you can say hello, Jynx, there if you want to.
Hey there, I'm here.
Excellent. So, like I said, she's from what I saw, she's been talking about the Mandela effect and getting quite personal and deep about the effects of the effect on people. To lack of a better phrase, there, if you're it's difficult to talk about the ME or Mandela. I'm not sure what other phrases you may have heard out there to call the effect, but I think the effect is quite a succinct way of saying it, so let's stick to the effect.
Okay, that works.
So about the effect today and some of the research that Jynx Cat here has been doing herself. She's been asking questions to children, to adults, to those unaffected, and to those who are, to try and find the commonalities, similarities, and any thread of connection we can make between these experiences to get closer to the truth of what's actually going on here. She started support groups as well, and I've been involved in those, listened to many testimonies of people's experiences. And it's clear to me, as someone who's not looked into this for quite a while, obviously I look at all the conspiracies all the time, and Mandela effect to me is one small piece of a very large, complicated conspiracy against mankind in some way, shape, or form. But that means I don't always have time to research these things, but thankfully there's people like you out there who are doing this, and I've been getting pretty deep into it. So without further ado, I'll leave it to you. And if you want to begin, let's talk about how you got into this and how you're finding it so far.
Yeah, so my own personal experience, I have had, and I'll kind of get into this later with commonalities, but I've had a lot of paranormal experiences in my lifetime. I had one that lasted in between 2007 and 2008, went on that entire time in a building that I was actually renting. So the first thing that really happened to me happened in 2007, which is funny because this is long before I even knew it was called this, you know, and I was relating it to all the other supernatural stuff going on around me at that time. But this didn't fit with the rest of it. So real quick story, if that's okay with you.
Of course, go ahead.
Okay. So I owned a salon. I was working in the building, and I've told this story, I'm not sure where, but before, I know a few people have heard it. I was working in the salon, and it was just myself and a client that were there. And I had, at that time, a small fridge, and we'd offer drinks, and we had one Diet Pepsi left, or it was a Diet Pepsi or a Diet Coke. And I remember that because it was the only thing I would drink. I wouldn't drink any kind of regular soda. So I had this, and I offered it, and she wanted it. So I gave it to her, and she was drinking it. And we turned around to go in the front room and ring it out at the cash register. And when I turned back around, there was a can of soda on the stand, the workstation where I was at. And this soda was open and was that same brand. And I said, "You forgot your drink." And she goes, "No, mine's right here." It appeared out of thin air.
Okay.
Yeah,
that's
it was really weird. There was, I know for a fact, since I was the business owner, we didn't have anything in the closet. There was absolutely nothing, and it was like there and then wasn't. And I never understood that because I thought, if there was any paranormal experiences going on there, it would be why would something like that appear out of thin air? It's usually things getting knocked around or sounds.
You're
So
right.
it was just, it didn't fit. And that was the very first thing I noticed. And then I started noticing the name brands and thought that they were just new branding. And then in October of 2016, I received a Facebook post or something like that from my sister, and she went into this tiny blurb, on the Mandela effect about Berenstein and Berenstein, which is embarrassing that that's the first thing I saw, but it got me thinking. And once I looked anywhere under the top layer of it, I am like 90% changes. And when I started looking deeper and saw the meaningful changes, the JFK car changing and Tiananmen Square, Tank Boy not being ran over. When I started seeing those, it really struck me that this was not a joke. It was something they were making into a joke to hide what was really going on. But there is definitely something to it. So that was in October. And from there, I just started looking for other people who were experiencing it too, because I was feeling really isolated. It wasn't anything anybody, I knew could even dream of believing that I would think that they could believe. And my husband got it right at first, and then later kind of lost interest in it when we go into talking about people's behaviors. So, I could talk a little bit more about that. But yeah, that was my introductory, period. And once I understood that things I'd been seeing in the past that I noticed was never that way, not that it wasn't that way anymore, but that it was never that way at all. It just, I couldn't stop, and so I set up a email support group with a couple of other people I had met on YouTube that I became fairly close to. I have one guy that has really been my support through this. And yeah, we set this group up, and it grew from like 3 of us to now we have like 50 people. And I just moved the support group over to a private Facebook page. It's actually a secret page. So it's not viewable to anybody who's just searching for it. It's invite only, and it's open to everybody. It's troll-free zone and completely private, so nobody knows you're on there. No, your family won't know you're talking about it if you're not comfortable. So yeah, that's kind of where I've gone with it. And my channel is about trying to get people's stories out there, because I say this in a video, but I feel that the ME is being looked at everywhere. There's all kinds of sites and all kinds of channels dealing with this change to this and this, but I'm trying to look deeper into that. I want to see if maybe we have something similar in our lifestyles, or something similar in the way we react, or our spirituality. I mean, there's, all these things to look at. And so that kind of led to me starting to ask people questions. I had a journalism background, and it's just kind of where I automatically went with it. So that's my thing. And if people want to share their stories, that's kind of what my channel is all about. So yeah.
Okay, well, anyone listening who has a story, get to Jynx Cat here, send her a message and see if
Definitely.
she can get that story on your channel. Yeah, fantastic. So it sounds to me like you had a supernatural experience before learning about the effect, so obviously with this can appearing out of nowhere.
Yeah.
Was that something, I mean, in the past too, before I was really consciously aware of spirituality, I would say I had some things happen to me in the past as well, which are quite unexplainable. But like me, did you kind of just suppress it, forget about it, and it just kind of vanished out of your mind, or was it always there, present in your consciousness?
I did not. Yeah. I'm getting feedback, I think.
Oh, sorry.
No, that's okay. That's okay.
1 second. Is that better?
Yeah. It's gone.
All right, good stuff. Good stuff. Okay.
So yeah, I'm sorry. Remind me what you were just saying.
I was just saying, after having such a bizarre event like that happen, like something manifest out of nowhere,
well,
how did you react to that? Did you internalize it? Did you think about it consistently, or did you kind of just suppress it? What was the process there?
So I guess at that time, I had said that there were other things happening in the building that were very overwhelming at that time. I had mentioned it before, but the show Ghost Minds, it was, one of the TAPS style shows. I don't know. You're in the UK? Do you guys watch TAPS?
No,
Is it?
I'll just tell you the truth. No, that's
Yeah.
not anything I've ever heard of before. No.
Okay. So it was basically, one of the online shows, ghost hunting shows, and they came and filmed their pilot at the business that I had, because there was so much going on there, and like our clientele were seeing things, and the people who work for us were seeing things. And so by the time that happened, that was almost at the end of the year of really odd things going on. It was
Mm.
just another odd thing I added to the list. Um, I grouped it with all that other stuff that was going on, but it never felt right to me. And so when I thought, I've told this story about these things that went on to people over the years, because this was like 2007, I kind of just lumped it in there and I tell people it, but I tell it as part of that story. And it didn't occur to me until after I knew what the Mandela effect was, that something could change reality, could shift or change and jump like that.
Mm.
It was the first time I'd put it together with that. So it was always in my bag of, oh, this is what I base my life outlook on. This is, the
Yeah,
things
well,
that I've
it's
been
definitely
through.
something to change your life outlook. I'm not going to lie.
Yeah.
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 So obviously, after having an experience like that, I guess anyone naturally, and most of us have had an urge of inquiry about us, something we have to find answers to what's going on around us. Because for the
Yeah.
first time, physical evidence, something physical has happened, which has convinced us there's perhaps more going on here. And the most I found, we'll get on to now with the commonalities. Most Mandela effect experiences have had some kind of bizarre spiritual experience at some point
Yeah.
prior to discovering the effect or noticing the effect. So we'll get on to that now. There's a video which I'll leave a link for, which you've created,
Yes.
which is about the commonalities of the Mandela effect. And there's a list here which you've created, and I'll see if I can quickly screen share this so our
Yeah.
viewers can see as well. Screen share. And we'll get a bit of a bizarre effect in a second. There we go. And can you see my screen? Is it up here?
Let's see. It's not on the YouTube, but yep, I see it. Yeah, it's up. We're good.
Stuff. And we've got your video here as well, haven't we? Excellent. Right, so here's the list basically that you come up with, and if you want to talk through what you did here, we'll go through one of them at a time, and we'll see what similarities you did see.
Yeah, so the way that this list was put together, I want to first and foremost, I always want to say this, I'm not a scientist. I have no scientific background other than having a degree and having to go through biology in college. But
Oh, me either. Don't worry about it.
So I always, this is not any kind of, because I get a lot of comments, well, was this done and was this there? There were no controls. These were questions that I put together with my support group when we started trying to look for the similarities that we had, and that was around October, November. And so these were things that we kept kind of adding in as we were asking the questions, and then we'd say, oh, this and this, and we just take this, I was keeping a list of everybody's answers and started looking through them and seeing what everybody had in common. So these were the things that came up between us. The first one was education. Something that I found in this doesn't really have anything to do with it is education level. I've talked to people who are in school. I've talked to kids, who obviously haven't had a chance to have any kind of developing career. And so that didn't really seem to play any kind of big factor in it, which, I didn't really have a say on that beforehand. Career, also, I thought maybe that would play into it. People with maybe more scientific careers or more art-related careers, but it really had nothing to do with it. Again, I saw nothing in conjunction there for everybody. And then the next was, I'm having trouble seeing it on the screen. Age, that's right. So age, I haven't really seen anything that stands out in terms of people's ages. I have seen young people that remember it. I have seen middle-aged people that remember it, and I've seen older people that remember it. But it doesn't seem to make a difference between whether people remember it or not.
No, it's interesting with the age, because at the beginning, people had theories that it's only kind of the baby boom generation that remembers anything.
Exactly.
Because they're old enough to remember. But what I was seeing recently is like Pikachu Mandela effects coming out, where does he or does he not have a black thing at the end of his tail? That's only something people younger around my generation. I mean, I'm 24 now, So
Yeah,
people probably younger than me as well, because it went on forever. Pokemon, would remember something like that and take notice of something like that, which
exactly.
implies to me that the effects are constantly happening in real time
Hmm.
to
Yeah,
affect every age. Whatever your attention's on at whatever age you are, something will be affected within your
yeah.
age. So that's interesting. Go ahead. Go ahead. Sorry.
Oh no, yeah, no, I do think it's straight across the board. I what I did find is that, and I haven't got to talk with too many elderly people myself. This is coming from people who have sent me their, responses on this. But it seems like the elderly, 70 and up, seem much more accepting of the idea, but don't
Hmm.
have a lot of interest in it. Kids also seem very, very accepting of the idea, and they seem to have a lot of interest in it. And then we'll talk about this probably a little bit more later, but adults between the ages of 20, to 50 usually are the big group that seem to remember things.
Hmm.
They are usually either they remember or they're really standoffish. And that's something, when we talk about kind of the odd behaviors of people, that really surprises me. So I would say that what I found out from the people I have talked to is that generally kids and older people tend to be more accepting. The people that really want to fight it seem to be the middle-aged people.
Right.
Um,
Interesting.
yeah, just and I think it's because we know how it was. That was, we have this past that we believe was real and that we
Mm.
feel was our world, and it's just kind of been ripped away from
Well,
us, and most people don't even believe that it has, so
that's
it's
true.
that's a lot of loss.
Well, you
Right.
say it's children and people in the later years of life who seem to
Yeah.
notice more. Just throwing it out there, does that mean those who are closer to birth and death, who are more thinking about life in a way which maybe those in the middle don't have time to think about? Obviously, the youth are in love with life and pay
Right.
attention to everything like a sponge. The elderly are more reflective about life and start to look back at everything they've experienced in preparation for the next. I think it's just a natural process everyone has to go
Yeah.
through emotionally. Maybe that explains why children and those who are later on in age are more open to these ideas. Just something to
Yeah.
throw out there.
I think you said it exactly. That's my personal feel on it, is that they're closer to
Mhm.
the source or closer to, whatever we all came from or go to. And
Mhm.
I think like middle age, anytime, between I'd say like your 20s to like 50s in there, before you kind of start calming down and knowing what you want from life, and you're still trying to get and, succeed in some kind of thing we're supposed to succeed in.
Mhm.
We really shut ourselves off to that because we're so focused on the material physical world in that age group. It's our working age,
Well, it
it's
seems like within that age group, it's 50-50.
yeah.
Half of us are very well aware, and the other half, like you said, are very standoffish, defensive, shut down very quickly, and get that anger standoff, tense look about them, where it's kind of just stop talking about this now, as if they can't cope with it in some way. It's
Yeah.
like a firewall reaction. Is a good way to describe it. Like they have these defenses up to protect their world,
Yeah.
their
Yeah.
worldview. And obviously, at ages like 20 to 30. I think most people are quite arrogant, thinking that they have everything figured out
Yeah.
before they hit the great big fall and realize they don't know anything.
I
That
think
usually
that's yeah, exactly.
so I think it's just whether they've experienced that yet, and that brings me on to something we mentioned earlier in your videos as well. How people who have experienced death or trauma or
Yeah.
near-death experiences in the family, with their friends, loved
Hmm.
ones, or with themselves, seem to be more in tune to see the effect as well. That was something you mentioned.
Yes.
Am I
Yes.
right there? Do you have anything you want to expand on with that?
Well, if we go down the list, we'll actually come to that if you want me to
Oh, okay.
continue down it. But yeah, exactly. That was actually a almost 100%. So we'll get back to that. But yeah, you were right on
Yeah, no
there.
problem.
Um, so real quick, I did age. That's kind of left off from where we were at. Family structure. I did not see any sort of commonalities, and if it was man, woman, female, female, male, male, kid, in the household, elderly people, it didn't seem to make any kind of difference, whatever the structure of the family was. It was really went, you know, by the wayside. Birth order had nothing to do with it. We were thinking when we came up with this question that maybe, you know, it was the youngest or the oldest in the family that we're experiencing it. And we were trying to figure out the age correlation again with that. Star sign, I'd had so many people ask what, you know, star sign I was, that I thought it must be important to people out there. So I threw it in there. Again, didn't have anything in common with the large majority of people. Ethnicity, again, nothing. I didn't come across any certain ethnicity that seemed to have more effects. I personally haven't even really seen more in the USA than I've heard from other places. I feel like in the USA, we have a bigger mouth. We tend to talk about it more. But I think things are happening. I've received tons of things from people in Germany. I have people in Mexico. I have somebody in Canada. A bunch of people in Australia I've heard from. Somebody in Scotland. So it definitely is a world thing going on. I feel like maybe we talk about the English American changes more, but that's just kind of my own personal, you know, thought on that. Um, so residents, I didn't see any kind of correlation between people who had money, people who didn't, if they lived in houses or apartments, nothing like that. Farmland compared to city, I haven't seen any difference there. Religion, no difference in religion whatsoever, but everybody was very spiritual. So even I talked to a few atheists, and even the atheists that I had talked to were still very big truth hunters. You know, they were definitely on their own journey towards becoming more aware. And that seems to be a really, really, really common thing in this, is that all of us are on some sort of spiritual growth cycle, you know, or becoming more of who we are. And I've seen that in really everybody I've talked to up until this last video I put out. I haven't got to answer, but I saw one comment where somebody was like, well, this doesn't really matter to me at all, and I don't feel like this has raised me up or anything like that or put me down. But overall, most people seem to
So I
be on
guess,
some kind of path.
yeah, I guess then it's those who, like you said, who have already experienced something spiritual in life or on a path of inquiry. Those who actually have opened their eyes and are looking around are seeing.
Yes, that's
I guess it
exact.
has to be conscious. It has to be like a conscious decision to seek. Well, not seek. I mean, the answers are right there in front of you all the time. This is what you kind of learn about truth. It's kind of
Yeah.
laughing in your face
It
consistently.
is. It's just where you focus your interest, you know. If you're looking
It's whether or not you
down
pay
at the,
attention.
yeah, if you're looking at the ground, you know, and there's thousands of stars, you're never going to see one star. They're right there, but you're never going to see it because you're watching the ground. And I feel like that's what a lot of people do. But I also have my own kind of theories, is, you know, if you want to talk about it a little later, on the people some of the people who don't respond to this and sort of reboot, and we can go into that later, but sort of reboot, re-regulate their answers when you ask them about the phenomenon. I feel like those people are more of, I call them NPCs, like non-player characters. You know, Dolores Cannon calls them background people, and we can get a little bit more into that if you want later. But I kind of feel like some of them are not fully conscious, and I'm not. I have my own theories on this too. I'm not saying that they do not have a consciousness or that they don't have a soul, but I believe that it your consciousness is more fully in one place at one time. And so if you want to ask me about that later, we can go into it. But that is something that I notice, is that, you know,
Well, no, I agree, I do agree with that. We can get into it now if you want. That's
yeah,
fine. But no, in terms of NPCs, non-playable characters, I've heard this other theory that there's not actually that many humans on the planet as we've
yeah,
been told.
yeah,
With the matrix-like nature of the world we are on, it's very possible that some of these people, we can call them, which are around us, aren't people at all. But then you can get into speculation: are these other entities pretending to be humans? So we get into alien deceptions, or perhaps demonic ideas, depending on what side of the coin you're on there in terms of the religious aspect.
right,
It can be kind of dangerously Gnostic to start to
yeah,
think that the world is a prison of some kind and a matrix. Because when you start to get into the matrix idea and start referring to people as, you know, NPCs, it's the idea that
it's
there are
simulation,
people.
right,
Well, not that, it's that there are other people better than others.
Yeah. Yeah.
If you want to come at it from a Christian standpoint, no human is better than the other. We're all sinful
Exactly.
in nature, and it's the idea that we need to forgive each other of our sins and understand that even these who we could call NPCs, those who keep their head down, you have to
Right.
understand that when you put your head up above the herd, you make yourself a target to
Yeah.
the predator.
Well,
So it's dangerous for a lot of people have a fear of doing that.
right. Right.
That's fair enough. I think some people, like we're learning, when you see people react to the effect, can't really cope with it.
Yeah.
Um, and I think these are what you would call NPCs who are
Right.
trying to break free,
Well,
and
and
they
there are
can't.
I'm sorry. There are some people who don't see the effect because it's always been the way it is for them, and I firmly believe that too.
Mm. Oh yeah, of course. Yeah, sorry.
So, no,
I
no,
kind of forgot about that
yeah,
aspect of the
yeah,
Mandela.
yeah,
I guess I'm talking from my perspective because I see it all. But
yeah.
yeah, I guess there are some people who just do not see it all.
It's
You're right.
always
There are
I yeah, and what I've noticed too is not everybody has gone through the same shifts at the same time. So for myself, Bernstein changed in 2003 when I had my son, but for somebody else that had written to me, Bernstein changed in 1994. So there's
those.
definitely there's more than one shift that's happened, and there are people who are out there counting the shifts, and they have a system down for, this happened then and this happened then, and this is when most of, this was going on. I mean, there's all kinds of theories. But if you don't mind, when you were talking about the NPCs, so I go back to that?
Yeah, of course. Go
Okay.
ahead.
So I'm actually Buddhist. I grew up Roman Catholic, so I have a pretty varied, amount of spiritual views. I've looked into a lot. And personally, the way that I see this, so I do believe in the multi-world theory.
Mhm.
I am a huge quantum physics nerd. I say this all the time. But I do believe that at some point when we're making decisions, it branches off that, until you see a quark, it doesn't stabilize. And so to be able to measure a quark is to look at it, and
Mhm.
automatically that stops its reaction from what it would have been otherwise. And so I really do believe in this idea that, energies goes two different directions. And I think that in these worlds, there are many, many versions of us. What I kind of look at it as, and this is just how I explain it to myself, but if you think of a flower growing up out of the ground, there's the
Mhm.
tiny little leaves at the bottom that are just popping up out of the dirt. There's some that are a little bit higher up, and then up on top there's a big bloom. I feel like when you're conscious in a reality, you are part of that big bloom, and that's your main consciousness. Well, the ones underneath you, the little leaves, and buds, they aren't less alive, but they aren't fully active, if that makes sense. And
Mhm.
so I feel that, whatever reality that you're in, that reality is your biggest consciousness right there. And the other yous are kind of on standby. So I do believe now, I didn't before, but in quantum immortality, which, are you familiar with quantum immortality?
I'm not familiar with the phrase, no, but I might be familiar with what you're about to
The
say about it.
concept.
So, yeah.
Okay, so the idea is that there's all of these realities, and each time you die, you're shifted into
Ah,
automatically another reality where you possibly could have gone on living.
mhm.
I personally believe this is happening with frequencies, and that's, I can go so deeply into it, but I believe that these I'm sorry, I have fibro brain sometimes, so I lose my place. Give me like two sentences back.
No, it's okay. Yeah, so you believe, that when you die, it's possible that you don't die. You just carry
Right,
on in
right, right, right.
another dimension,
And
another
and
reality.
so what I think happens is your largest part of your consciousness is shifted into one of these bodies. I think when these bodies, when you're not fully filling one of these bodies, when it's not fully conscious, it's still alive, it's still part of you, but it's kind of on call. And I think that those bodies are much, much easier to program. I do believe, because I believe in, the theories of quantum physics, I do believe that things are vibrating. I believe everything has a frequency. The earth obviously has its own frequency. This
Mhm.
isn't new age stuff. This is
No, I believe all of that too.
technical science. So,
I do
I mean,
agree with all that. Yes.
I see this as frequencies being changed, and I feel that not all of these people around you are fully conscious at the same time. And so when you're shifted, you're not always shifted with everybody at the same time, if that makes sense. And
Mhm.
so I think people have different shifts or seeing things at different times because they come into those new realities at different times. I believe that this is a natural phenomenon. I believe it's how we move through the cyclical, fashion of life and death. But I feel like it's being manipulated right now because things are coming up faster and at a more, concrete, steadily growing rate. And so I feel like there's two things going on. People try to go with, we're raising consciousness. Well, I think we're always raising consciousness, individually. And I think that we can go up and down a bit, but I think eventually, there's a large prize, there's becoming enlightened or whatever, your specific religion or belief system is. But I think it takes a lot longer than we want it to. And so I think that we're not all shifting at the same time because I think that we're all shifting into realities constantly on a different basis.
I can get on board with that idea. Yeah, I mean, I can understand that everything is frequency and vibration. Nothing exists unless you're looking at it. That kind of has been scientifically proven. I do agree with that. So it does make you question the validity or the reality of the thing we're in, this kind of software we're experiencing through our machine, which is, the brain, the computer itself, to process this information. And in terms of what consciousness is speculative. You know what I mean? That's something that I don't think anyone can really pinpoint.
Exactly.
Because it's like trying to grab your own hand with the same hand. You know what I mean? It's kind of it's an impossible feat to do. You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah. Well,
the hand has the ability to grab, but you can't grab your own hand of the same nature. So I get that concept. I think it's kind of always meant to have been an illusion, a mystery, should I say? We're not really supposed to know that concept, because I think when people do start to think about it, like people who go into the inquiry of Zen or Buddhism or Hinduism and these type of ideas, and get into the psychedelic nature of reality. I can see that people do kind of.
It's funny because I always called quantum physics the science of God, because I mean, really, when it comes down to it, when you're looking at quantum stuff and then you're looking at a lot of these religions, they're based on the same concepts. They might be using slightly different wording, but they're completely the same concept, And so,
it's not. Where I have to disagree. I understand that there are religions out there or belief, not necessarily the religion, because not all of them have ritual, but there are beliefs and viewpoints out there which worship the creation over a possible creator, and that's the difference between a Christian and a Buddhist, let's say, just for example. So as a Christian, my focus isn't necessarily on although I used to be a Zen Buddhist, I used to take psychedelics and do all these.
That's funny. We kind of switched. We switched off.
It is a huge switch. Yeah, I can understand. But as someone who's been raised as a Roman Catholic, I need you to understand that is not at all what I believe, and I think that is a huge evil deception too. Not at all Christianity. It's just been sold as Christianity. Now, true Christianity doesn't deny the science of God. It doesn't deny the beauty of the creation that we're in. It just understands it's a creation, and there is a designer. And science is based on Christians looking to find out more about God's creation. It's not at all a rejection of God at all when you look at true scientific inquiry.
Yeah, I think that maybe you're misunderstanding what I meant. No, I actually believe that there is a creating God. I'm, like I said, I kind of grew up in the Roman Catholic Church and then switched over just as an adult over the last 5 years now, to Buddhism. We kind of did a flip-flop, you and I. But that has never been erased from me. I think that what gets in the way a lot of times is that I see the world as both. I see creation as being God, like God is creation. I don't feel like the two can be separated. I feel like it is the same thing.
I see it as a mirror, a reflection. I think the creation is a reflection of God.
Yeah, I could see that too. I mean, I can see
God itself, if you get it. That's the only metaphysical way I can think of describing the Christian angle. It doesn't deny that the creation certainly has miracles happening within it, which seem conscious in nature. but you could just call that the brushstrokes of God himself painting onto the canvas. It's a reflection. It's a reflection of him himself, or her. Well, you can say her if you want. If you want to
Right.
go that far, you know, I don't want to offend anyone in this nature. But God himself, I'll say he by the Bible standards. You know,
Yeah.
it seems like that's just the way he manifests through. And he the only reason I believe it so is because it seems to communicate directly as an authoritative figure if you listen. If you want to connect to that, and that direct consciousness, that tweaking of reality that it can do, the miracles it can consciously perform by asking, is just to me more of a certifier in my eyes that God is real in that respect, and we need to kind of get to know them. Like if that's true, then it's the only thing that matters in my eyes. You know what I mean? So it's the only thing that we can kind of focus on. Now, getting on to the Mandela effect. I mean, a lot of people in the Christian perspective, you might not know this obviously from angles, but
I
they
do.
are terrified. They think obviously it's demons affecting nature and changing the Bible, simplifying things in the Bible, causing terrible grammar to be in the Bible that wasn't there prior, changing famous prayers and quotes and things like this to be more sadistic, more evil, more terrifying in nature. You know what I mean? So it seems naturally like this is some kind of satanic action. Now, obviously, what you were saying there is you say there's something going on here. Obviously, you can tell some kind of deceptions behind all this. Now I can agree with you that this is a naturally occurring process of the creation. And dark forces, whether that's human or interdimensional, have hijacked this common system and are manipulating it for their own type of gain right now by attacking things that seem to encourage a belief in God, from my opinion.
I actually think so too.
How do you see the negative entities or this force interacting with the Mandela effects? Do you think most effects are positive, or are they mainly all negative?
I think that I think that they are manipulating this effect to try to create the world that they need to create to offset their goals.
It's interesting. I would say the same, but in order to manifest here.
Yeah, I don't want to specify too much on who they are, because I feel like that gets it's really perception based, depending on whether you're religious or whether you're not. I do not think that, just personally, I do not think that it is all human entities that are manipulating this effect. I think that there are humans involved, but I don't think that they are all necessarily human.
You try not to offend the CERN believers.
Well, it's funny because I believe CERN has a part to play in it.
Yeah, so do I.
I really do. I think that it could be very well a means of doing some of the things that they're doing. I don't think it's the end of the game. I think it's just another piece to, how things are being done, what information we have and what their intentions are. But I feel like this is my biggest problem with most theories, or most, times I hear people talking. They're very much one theory or the other, and they either hate CERN or it's all about CERN. And there's no middle ground for people. And it's really, you were saying it earlier, the ME is a part of a lot more going on. It's not the full story. It's proof for some of us, that things are not what they seem to be. That something is being manipulated in a way that it wasn't as much before.
Yeah, well, from my perspective, you see, like we're saying, this isn't a new feeling for me. Now, the effect, the discovery of the Mandela effect may be a new topic, but since 9/11, not even minimum, but even prior towards that JFK assassination, there have been thousands of people questioning the nature of their reality and looking into all the horrific truths that have been hidden from us. And the Mandela effect is one huge, terrifying, world-shattering problem that needs to be understood and solved. But
Yeah.
so is every other topic. It's equally as devastating to your psyche when you learn about chemtrails. That's huge.
Yeah.
The concept of that alone and what it means is enormous and is enough to send anybody insane just by thinking about it. The flat Earth concept. What else have we got? Even just the assassinations and the MK Ultra mind control programs that are around as well. Just learning about that, or the child sacrifice, the satanic cults as well that run a lot of these industries. Every time you learn a new topic, you go through a traumatic experience. So I'm terrified for these Mandela effect discoverers who have, it's the first thing they've ever heard of in terms of waking them up, red pilling them, we can call it now. It's kind of a new phrase. But they can't cope with it. They're going through the 5 stages of loss and grief. And it's kind of people like me, I got over that years ago. It's kind of, I'm excited to get a new topic and find out what else is going on now. There's no fear for someone like me. And I think, again, the people who aren't scared are the ones who are really grounded in whatever faith they have, whatever that is.
True. It's true. I think you're completely right. That's, I have bouts of just being overwhelmed, like the sense of dissonance. Most of the time I don't have that anymore. Here and there with certain changes, I'll still get that dissonance. But overall, I feel like I'm on the right team. Does that make sense? Like I have a total belief that everything in the end is okay. And all I have to do is be as kind and as supportive and as helpful as I can to other people who are going through it. And I feel like that's my job right now. I think that the people who are seeing it for a reason. I think it's some kind of sign. They talk about the great deception, in the Bible. I really personally, honestly feel that that's what this is. I don't like to say that
it's
because
fascinating. Yeah. I mean, the great.
I don't want to scare people, or
no. It's okay. No one's gonna get scared here. We're all pros at this on this channel.
Yeah,
we've heard it all.
And I don't go into this very much because there's so much with religion. I try to stay, like I was saying, I try to stay out of and let other people tell their stories.
Luckily, you don't have to. I can. So on this religious concept, you don't have to say anything on this, but I do believe the great deception is something we were warned about in the end times, in Revelations, and it would be such a huge thing. It would deceive even the very elect if it was possible.
Exactly.
Even the most devout Christians who believe in God could lose that belief in God over this.
I see it happening. I see it happening. I see it happening in a time where there are mass animal death. Like I read a article saying that 2/3, and again, I'm not like a fearmonger. I swear I'm not doing this to stress anybody out. I read an article saying 2/3 of our animals would be gone by 2020 if we weren't changing up how things were going right now. And, there are multiple waters running red for whatever the reason. It didn't say this is why waters will run red. It said waters will run red. It's happening, and it's happening in multiple places. You have like these really insane $8 million ceremonies being put on, over these tunnels that were dug 6,666 feet under the ground in an area that used to be, basically a Luciferian site,
It's named after Apollo, isn't it?
Right? And it's just, and then you see this, all of the governments coming together for this ceremony that goes on and is like just absolutely insane. And then you have at the same time 2 suns appearing in the sky to people. You see no moon. All of these things were prophesized. And I'm not saying that necessarily, I personally believe that, it's all Christianity has all the answers, or this religion has all the answers. For me, Buddhism it's not really a religion. It's a way that you look at things, you look at life and the world. It's a philosophy, more than a religion, which is why I think I still hold on to this background of Christianic beliefs, and it mixes so well for me.
Well, say what you want about Christianity, whether it's true or not. You can't just discredit the historical document we have in the Bible.
And that's the thing, is like, even for the level, like, where if people don't believe, that it was written from the Word of God, if people believe that people hate me for this too, but if people believe that, they were empaths, the people who wrote the Bible were empaths, or they were receiving messages,
Mhm.
this is all, it falls into, a different category for people. It's all the same thing. In the end, it's these prophecies, which also appear in other biblical texts and other, religious texts in different ways. All of these are coming true in the same time frame. I mean, at like how do people not see that? Like, it
It's
really drives
definitely
me
enough to get you
crazy.
thinking, isn't it? It's definitely enough to get you thinking with what's going on. And I don't care which angle you come at this from or begin from. Inevitably, at the end of any search for inquiry of truth, you will find God. And
Yeah.
I say that I'm not here to pressure one way or the other. I would say it's finding Jesus Christ. Other people would say whatever it is. But in the end of the day, it's opening your eyes and seeing that, there's something big going on here. And that's
Exactly, that we are
fantastic news
more.
for me. As long as everyone's
Yeah.
doing that, I'm happy. We'll all end up in the same place eventually. The truth will have to be revealed eventually.
Yeah.
If there is one
Well,
truth,
that's
we'll
the
all
thing.
find out.
People, like, and this is why I don't share my whole views on this really ever, or really put the entire thing out there, because I do, people write to me and they say, so is this life a trap? Are we just recycling? Or is or is it all a game? Is nothing real? And I don't believe that. I
No.
really believe that we are seeing this for a reason. I think that we are lucky to be seeing it. I really do. I think it's hard. I think that it's isolating and lonely, but I think that we're seeing it for a reason. I think we have a purpose. And I think that's really beautiful. I think that the fact that we are coming together with people that we never would have talked to or met up with, because of this effect, we're
Mhm.
finding people who are smart, intelligent, can speak with us philosophically, carry on a lot of the same, interests, and a lot of the same conversation interests and topics. And you never would have seen that before, And so I feel like us being introduced to each other and being here and living in a time where we see we really have a purpose, a real spiritual purpose, a real meaningful purpose, not something, you know, daily. We have that too, we deal with, but I just
No, of
think
course.
there's good parts to it. It's really scary, but there's also really good things about it,
Mhm.
you know?
Well, we'll get on to this. I mean, relationships is one of the next on the list. And how have you found the Mandela effect has affected people's relationships with their
Oh
loved
my
ones?
gosh. It has been
What kind of stories have you heard?
very, very, very difficult. I've heard that people have talked to me about their spouses leaving them. If they talk about it any longer, their spouse is going to leave them. People
Mm.
going to counseling because of it. I've talked to people who have lost their spouse because their spouse, suddenly did a complete personality flip. I actually, in my last
Ooh,
video,
actually, yeah.
yeah.
That's what I was going to
So
mention. Go ahead, explain
in
that story.
yeah,
That
yeah,
was
yeah.
dark.
So in my last video, I had just posted, it's part 3 of my series of people's personal stories. They're not all specifically, ME related effects, as in what you'd think of if you went to the grocery store and saw a brand name change or a movie line change. It's more people are reporting the things that were going on in their lives during
Hmm.
the times that these changes seem to have picked up, etc. And one of the ones I see a lot is people's spouses changing. So in this case, this was somebody's very best friend. They were together 10 years before, but even further back, I'm married 10 years, even further back, had just been completely inseparable, had 2 kids, was, this perfect family. And then one day, literally in 2012, they went on a family vacation. It was just totally different than they'd ever experienced before. The mom was like a totally different person. They came back. She started cheating with like 3 different people. They had never, I mean, it was never any kind of thing in their relationship. And then later ends up turning out to, I guess she had gone through counseling with him, and then hooked up with her boss from work, and then decided that she was not into guys at all anymore. And so he lost her, and she did this complete, 360 personality shift. And I had a few people commenting and saying, well, it's not really a Mandela effect. It shouldn't really be in there because people are going to blame any bad relationship on this Mandela effect. What I wanted to point out was that this happened not over a period of time with him and this woman. It happened overnight. And it happened overnight in the same amount of time, that same timeline that other people were emailing me and telling me that the exact same thing happened to them, that they experienced this overnight shift with their spouse. Um, I've heard, people talking about all of a sudden their spouse that they've been with for 20 years decides to make them a sandwich and puts what they like onions, and they hate onions, and they say, oh, I've always hated onions, and she says, no, you loved them, they were always your favorite thing, like these big crazy shifts
I
in
have a
people.
story for you, actually.
Yeah,
What we're talking about here is talking about people's own lives literally becoming a different life, and
literally
people's
literally.
memories of their life is not what they're telling them it is. It's kind of that happened to me, and I've never really thought about it as a Mandela effect till recently. But about a couple of years ago, my friend Liam, who I have known since I was 5, I'm 24 now, so a long time. You know what I mean? Talking
Right.
since children, I've known this man my entire life practically, and he kept telling me your memory's terrible because I couldn't remember going to this big bar called the Continental near where I live. And it's a place
Right.
where hippies get together and read poetry and do open mic nights and whatever and things like that. It's kind of something I would thought I would have gone to, but I've never been to that place in my entire life. I have been to hundreds of bars and pubs in my time, and I can describe the interior of every single one of them if you brought it up to me. I remember places I have been once to that bar, but he is adamant I was there with him at an open mic night in the past, listening to poetry, and I just do not remember it happening. I said, Liam, that never happened. I was never with you there. I have never been to the Continental ever. I can't even bring a memory into my mind of that place, but he is 100% adamant when we were 17 or 18 or something.
Isn't that amazing?
And it never happened. And he laughs at me saying, God, your memory is so terrible. It's kind of like, I think I would know where I have been physically, but he's no, I'm wrong on that apparently. So yeah,
it's absolutely, and I hear stories like this. There was another one that was in the last video I put out where there was a white plastic box that was buried inside or outside of somebody's window. And it was a large white plastic box. I mean, it was like 3 inches by 3 inches, And he sent pictures. I have like the pictures on the video, but literally this block was like buried into the ground. It was undisturbed around it. And he was off the Gulf of New Mexico. So this guy, he said he does yard work all the time. It's almost year round. And he'd never seen it before. In the 5 years of living there, it's right outside his den window. So he takes some pictures and sends it. He looked up the manufacturer on the top just to see if he could figure out what it was, and nothing came up. He hasn't been able to find anything. I haven't done my own search on it, but things appearing out of nowhere, or being told that you were
your experience, wouldn't it, as well?
Yeah.
There's things like I completely forgot about coming back to me because of discovering this effect. I'm now realizing something very bizarre that I should have noticed more. That I should have paid more attention to.
Well, it makes you think of these things that you never really. Sorry, I had to let my dog in. It makes you think of these things that you never really go over again once they happen, and then you think about them in a whole new way, and you're like, "Wow, that is not what I thought was going on there," or I didn't have a place for that to fit in my head, which is part of what I think some people's reaction problems are to the effect. They just don't have a place built in their brain to put that information, and so it just kind of leaks back out.
Well, yeah, I guess you get distracted with life, don't you, at that time when you're not really thinking about stuff like this. You know what I mean? You put it to your mind as something interesting to remember at a later time when it is relevant, just like I did now. So yeah, it's fascinating work. Honestly, I love what you're doing here. Keep thinking about these things. We're coming up to the hour now.
Yeah,
stay too late. You've got things to do tonight, and that's fine by
I'm
me.
sorry.
So if you want to
Yeah.
bring it to a close now, and is there anything in particular you want to say to my subscribers? Is there any links or anything you want to direct people to, just to sum it up here now?
Yeah, if you guys are interested in the commonalities, I do have a commonalities video. I think it's up on screen right now.
Mhm.
And I would check that one out maybe to start with, just kind of see if my video style is something you enjoy. And, you know, if you feel like you relate to any of that, I realize there are going to be some people out there that don't relate to the things that are listed there. I'm not saying that you're not valid. I'm just saying these are the things that seem to be in common between people when I got their answers back. So I checked that out. And then one of my other favorite and most popular videos right now is the odd behaviors of the non-affected. And so I would say check that out if this is something you've thought about, but you haven't really had a chance to look into it further than your own experiences with it. That video might help out. And then the last thing I really wanted to say is that I have a, like I said before, a private secret group, Facebook group, support channel for people. So if you need a channel to go through, I shouldn't say channel on YouTube, is confusing. If you need you know, help or just want to talk, etc. Then sorry, I'm reading your messages off on the side. I'm so distracted. Yeah, it's jinxeffect@gmail.com. If you email me, I can send you a private invitation to that list. I'm really backed up right now on email and I've been super busy today. So I haven't not got to anybody. I just haven't got to check my email yet today. So yeah, if you're interested in signing up for that support group, then go ahead and email me. And then if you wanted to share any of your theories, your videos, your photos, your own personal experiences having to do with the Mandela effect or things that you feel relate to it, then please go ahead and send them to that same email address, the jinxeffect@gmail.com. And my channel is Jynx Cat, just like it is on the screen right now. And it's pretty easy to find. And yeah, I'm just always interested in hearing people's stories, getting them out there so that we can hear, you know, from more people who feel like us.
Well, on that I was invited to the original email group for the support group, and I can say to the people listening, they are very supportive people. It's literally a support group. It's very good. Everyone's very open and very polite to each other, and very opening of accepting of each other's beliefs on the matter. You don't have to agree with each other, but they'll still be there for each other because you're all experiencing the same mental trauma as each other, I'm sure.
Yeah.
So yeah, don't
And
worry about.
a lot of us don't have friends and family to talk to about it. So this is what we found, and it's helping people's relationships. You know, it's really helped people's marriages. Oddly enough, it's making a difference. So
Fantastic. Yeah. Well, Jynx Cat, I think we'll leave it there. I'll let you go. Thank you very much for coming onto the channel. Again, everyone subscribe to her. She's growing quickly, and I can tell she's going to be pretty big soon enough if she keeps going.
Thanks. All right. Well, I will talk to you later. Thanks for having me on.
Okay, no problem. See you soon.
Okay, bye.
Okay, now I am going to quickly just look through these comments to summarize this very quickly. I'm sorry I couldn't get to them. It was pretty difficult to do both, I've learned, but have a quick scroll through here now. And we'll just turn screen sharing off as well very quickly. Okay, I think we're back to normal. And let's have a look at what people have said here. So self-contented, thanks for coming. I appreciate it. Shadow in the Mask, I saw your comments today on the Jester videos. Thanks for those. I really do appreciate it. I'm sorry I haven't replied yet. I will soon. So what have we got here? Expose the Secret Societies says, there are a ton of illusions and things we miss. And then we question reality because of our ignorance of it. It's the art of misdirection, like how there's a blind spot in cars. That's true. No, I agree. A lot of people do miss the truth just through lack of knowledge. And, you know, it is said in the Bible, you know, my people perish for lack of knowledge. And these are things people, you know, you have to take it upon yourself to learn the information in order to best discern what's happening around you. And that's up to channels like ours and people like ourselves to just spread the truth with the word. It's all we can do. So going on here, what else have we got? Oh, he has a story as well. And he's just going to say it. Excellent. So he says, one time I was with a group of my friends. We just arrived at a house to stay in California to hang out for the weekend. When we arrived, we put all of our shoes and sandals next to the door. Everyone did. 30 minutes later, we wanted to leave to walk around and explore, but my sandals were missing, and we couldn't find them anywhere in the house. After the weekend, we went home, and one of my friends said he found them in their house. But I never went over to their house before we headed to the house for the weekend. So it seemed as if my sandals teleported to his home. Wow. So from one place to another, even though you took them specifically away from the original place you left from. That's quite a story there. Again, it's similar to what Jynx Effect was saying, how this can just appeared out of nowhere, and how my friend just has random memories of me being places I weren't. So yeah, that fits in. Good story. So having a bit of a back and forth there about it. He has his own theories. Okay, guys, this is getting pretty hard. I don't think I have time to read all these. We'll sum it up there. Thanks for listening, guys. Obviously, this is the first live show I've done, so I'm a little bit rusty and I'm not the greatest at doing this yet. But as time goes on, I'm sure we'll get better, and I can learn to get maybe some music to start this off and end this with as well. Thanks for listening, guys. It's 2:30 in the morning for me. I am tired, but I've had a good time. Thanks for listening, and we'll speak soon. God bless.